So hello and welcome to the Dharma Life podcast. I'm your host, Aloise.life Middleton, and this week I bring you another amazing ascension guide. I found Michael's YouTube channel, Our Everyday Lives, and I just loved his message, loved his vibration, and really was keen to get him on the show. And once he and I connected, we had a little chat, and I thought you guys would absolutely love his story. So, Michael Della Rocca, welcome to the Dharma Life podcast.
Nice to connect with you, Aloise. And I feel like everything works in divine timing. So right now I'm working on my neuroplasticity, something I talk about on the channel. So I'm trying something new, something I've never done before. So when we work on neuroplasticity, we're working on pathways in the brain. So sometimes we always repeat the same thing. So I'm doing something new and creating new pathways in my brain by doing this. So I'm honored that you have me on your show.
Oh, fantastic. And that's what Ascension's all about. You know, we're learning, we're growing, we're stretching ourselves. So yeah, I'm really pleased that you decided to join me. But would you mind sharing with my audience your journey and your story? Like maybe if you could describe what it is that you're doing on the planet at the moment, because obviously your YouTube channel, you've got like nearly 20,000 subscribers, and you know, you're really, what I loved about it was you're sharing this in really uplifting and positive message about the ascension journey. But how did you come to be doing this work?
Well, my background, I say on my matrix journey, is in science. And when I got to the point of really expanding my consciousness, it was through learning the teachings of Nikola Tesla. And he was a scientist, and many people are aware of his work, but his work was suppressed. And he always said, when you think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, you unlock the keys to the universe. So he was a science mind, and his work connected spirituality with science. And sometimes people think about spirituality as separate from science, when authentically they are connected. And Tesla knew this years ago. So on my journey, I came across a documentary on Nikola Tesla, The Secrets of Vibration and Frequency. And at this point on my journey, this was about 5 years ago, I had a little bit of fatigue. So I was always tired all the time, and I didn't understand why I was tired. So I listened to the documentary because I always had the science mind, and I learned about the 5 to 8 hertz frequency, the miracle tone. So, and one of the things I talk about on my channel is actually applying things to your everyday life and not just learning about it and shoving it on the side. So I started sleeping with the 5 to 8 hertz frequency at night, and naturally my energy levels just increased and I wasn't tired all the time. So sometimes on our journey, we need to have firsthand experience of something, and then it expands our consciousness, or it opens our mind to other possibilities. So that's kind of like how it all started. So I saw tangible evidence, and I've always had the desire to learn more. And Tesla and the work that he left, by watching documentaries on Tesla, that's what kind of like started this. And then other people sharing about ascension symptoms and seeing the things that I was experiencing, and they were sharing like the same experiences. Then I kind of connected everything together. So that's kind of like how this all started.
Beautiful. So a science teacher turned spiritual teacher.
Yeah. But authentically, they are the same. So, you know, there's a suppression of authentic truth, and Tesla's work was suppressed. When you look at textbooks, you never see Nikola Tesla in any textbook. And he wanted to give the world free energy and ways to heal yourself. And we say the controllers of the narrative, they didn't want this information out there. So it is all together, spirituality and science, but it's kind of connecting the whole truth. So we're put in a box of limiting beliefs. So we feel like we could only, whatever's inside this box, that's given to us, and this is what science is. But when we put science, spirituality together, physical, mental, emotional together, then you have the whole picture. So it's really authentically about putting the whole picture together.
Beautiful. And would you say that that was your wake up call, that that was your spiritual awakening, that was your like a pivotal moment for you that woke you up?
Yeah, well, ever since I was a child, I always felt like there was something more.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. And when you read, or if you watch these documentaries on signs that you are a light worker, a common feeling is that you're a superhero. And I've always had that since I was a child. So I always had something there. But I do have a very scientific mind. So you need to have that evidence. I'm not a person to just throw it to the wind and just believe something or say, oh, this is truth, without actually seeing something with firsthand experience. And I understand people that are starting their awakening journey or haven't yet, because I, like them, I want to have that firsthand experience. And I always say that firsthand experience changes everything. So that's,
Absolutely.
I feel, important to helping people on their journeys, is having that firsthand experience.
Absolutely.
So, and I've had a few.
Yeah. Fantastic. And what made you then start the channel?
So from that, I've seen other people share. And on my journey, I've always enjoyed mentoring. And I've had people, whether they were younger, my age, or older, say to me that I should be teaching adults. And I've had this many times. I've seen other people share on YouTube and other ways, and I felt that I could do something that's different. And it's about being authentic. And there's so much to really teach and talk about, because we're actually unlearning and relearning almost everything about what we've learned. So a lot of people say that everything that we were taught is a lie. I'm big on the law of 80-20. So I would say about 80% is a lie. Yeah. So, I mean, there are some truths always, the law of 80-20, but there's a lot of unlearning and relearning. And I've always had a passion for learning this new information, the truth. And it's just in your innate. So that's just in your core. So on your journey, like, you feel something and you feel comfortable doing something. It doesn't feel like work. It just feels like that's what you want to do. And you think about it and you wake up thinking about it. And that's what the global reset is right now. So a lot of people, because of the matrix and subconscious programs, they were placed into a career or a lifestyle that maybe authentically they didn't want. And now they have this opportunity during the global reset to do and be the person that they were supposed to be. Because a lot of control, what a lot of people don't realize is subconscious programs. And I listen to the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. And 95% of your everyday life is dictated by subconscious programs. We're actually not even aware of them. And this is the science behind it. From birth to about 7 or 8, we're downloading by design subconscious programs.
We're absorbing it from our environment,
yes,
essentially.
And this is by nature. It's actually done for good. But people have hijacked this to program false subconscious programs. So it's very hard to break subconscious programs. That's why it requires so much energy to go through the awakening process.
Beautiful. And for those of you listening, you know that I love to talk about Dharma and I love to talk about purpose. And hopefully you can hear in Michael's sharing that effectively, you know, nothing's random in our lives. Like he's obviously, you know, got into being a science teacher because it ticked a lot of his boxes, helping others. Science was really interesting for him. And what I'm hearing from him, which is just wonders, he followed his passion. You know, he really followed what was passionate. He was passionate about, which is obviously Nikola Tesla. And then that led him into his awakening journey. And then other people generally can spot as well what we're good at and usually reflect it back to us. So what I think is beautiful about your sharing, Michael, is you're totally doing your Dharma. You know, you listen to that internal message, which, okay, I can teach people through my YouTube channel, and you did something about it. So if you're listening to this, guys, there's your marker is if you've got an idea in your head, like Michael, then go and do it. Because how long have you been doing your YouTube channel?
Well, synchronicity today marks 2 years.
2
so
years.
I feel this is divine timing because, you know, I always spoke about my first video, and my first video, I was extremely nervous. Now I go out there and it's like second nature. So again, today, I kind of feel that nervousness again. But like I said, we're doing something new. I'm not used to doing this. So again, that's your neuroplasticity. So yeah, so I do feel it's interesting that we're doing this today on the
2 years,
the 2
on
years
your
from
anniversary.
the
Wow.
yeah. So
well,
there are no such things as coincidences. So
absolutely, and we're all being called to that next level. You know, wherever you are at in your journey, we're all being stretched, and we're all being asked to go to that next level. So fantastic. And one of the things I really wanted to discuss was, I know you call yourself the activator of the 144,000. Can you explain that to our listeners and me, please?
So a lot of these ancient texts, they share stories, and they're all very similar. It just might be worded in a different way, almost like synonyms, the same meaning. So the 144,000 is also similar to the Hopi Prophecy, which is the legend of the Rainbow Warriors. And it says that at the end times, or whatever we're living in right now, a group of people from different colors, classes, and creeds will come together to save the world. And free will is the law of the universe. So this must be carried out by everyday life people. And a lot of times, I spoke about this once, you need to pick the ball up and run with it. So like I don't know if you watch football or, you know, sports, but if the ball's on the ground and everyone's just looking at the ball, nothing happens. So someone has to decide to pick the ball up. So the information was left for us in the past, but future proves past. And it's even a concept that's hard for me to digest, but the future and the past, there is a connection, and people are able to access the future. Maybe I have glimpses of that. Some people are much better than me, but that's how ancient prophecy was written. And there are no such things as coincidences, only synchronicities. And we could look around the world right now and we could see what's happening. We know that we're in this time now. But I also followed the work of Dolores Cannon, and she spoke about the waves of volunteers. Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon?
Yeah, I love Dolores Cannon.
So whether it was ancient prophecy, yeah, I know that's why we're here together. But yeah, so these people, whether they were ancient, you know, many years ago, or, you know, recent times, you know, she's no longer with us, but people are able to access the future and get this energy work. So sometimes you might see people posting about their dreams, so on and so forth. So this prophecy is about us, and it doesn't matter your age, race, religion, or gender. We're all the same, and we all have the same vibrational frequency. Tesla spoke about this, right? So we're not what we are, right? So you might see, you know, what I look like and what you look like and what someone else looks like. We might look totally different, but we're all the same frequency. And people that haven't awakened don't understand that. So, like when I was a child, I remember Martin Luther King, and he said that we judge people by the content of their character. And that also is connected to Tesla. It's about your core vibrational frequency. It's not about what you are on the outside. And you could look around and you could see people that are on this frequency. And then you open up even more and you come to terms that you've lived before and you've had many lives. And Dolores Cannon said that we are the waves of volunteers. So we reincarnated at this time on the planet to help save the world. But we already know how the story ends. So this is the shift to the 5D Earth. So people will see two different timelines playing out right now. And if a person, because subconscious programs and what you perceive becomes your reality. So people that are plugged into mainstream media, they feel the world is ending. People that have awakened know this is the beginning of the age of Aquarius, abundance for everyone. So the empath in me feels the pain that people are going through that haven't awakened. But as I tell people, because a lot of people write to me and they're like, how do I wake people up? And that's something I do. And I authentically tell them that it's not their responsibility, that one must awaken on their own because it's free will. And one of the things I say in a lot of my messages is that the truth cannot be told. It can only be realized. And a person must realize the truth. You cannot tell them. They have to use critical thinking and they have to come to terms that a lot of what we've been taught in the past is a lie. And now we're the teachers of the 5D Earth.
Yeah, beautiful. And it you know, it is difficult for people because it does completely shake and bust open your paradigm. Everything that we've been told, essentially, like you said, we have to unlearn and relearn because everything we've been told is stretching of the truth or has been manipulated. So yeah, what's your advice for our listeners around, you know, how if they've woken up but their family isn't awake? You just said there it's not their job to wake them up. What would you suggest that they do instead?
Well, first, you have to be the light and you just live your life, and others naturally will see your light and they'll say, oh, I want to be like that. Like some people see me with no fear going about because I know what's going to happen. And some people will naturally see you and awaken. But we have to remember that it's free will. So you can't like force someone to awaken. I speak about isolation a lot. It's something that I've gone through. So in the last few years, I've been pretty lonely. And a lot of people that know about the ascension process, they know that this is something that happens. So your frequency is changing and others are on a lower frequency and you're ascending. So you're raising your vibration. So you kind of like your friends, sometimes family, they push away. So now you're in isolation. You could only find yourself when you're alone without external vibrations or things interrupting you to finding who you truthfully are. And a lot of people aren't who they truthfully are because they just follow the mainstream programs. So I would say the isolation, and I've done a few videos this year about it. I've done it, you know, in the past because I naturally went through it, but people are kind of forced into the isolation right now because of what's going on. So it's time to maximize, right? So you got to go with the flow. This is what's given to us. So you have to go with the flow, and you're spending the isolation. I mean, I've come across many people, right? When I see them at the beach or wherever, and they've spent this time consuming, you know, things like YouTube and consuming all this information, and they have all these questions now. When this all started, you know, I've been talking about this for a while, and it's just like a switch, and people were like coming over to me asking me all these questions, you know, as I'm walking by, what's happening, you know. So, and that's the whole thing of having firsthand experience. You could talk about something, but people won't actually. They have to see. They have to see it. So, I mean, I would say, you know, spend the time in isolation and use it maximize it. And I talk about clairsentience and feeling the energy. So during the end times, they said it will be hard to tell what's right and wrong and good and bad and so on and so forth, because there's a lot of disinformation out there. So you have to feel. So that's why, like, people are able to feel the vibrations, and you have to be the writer of your reality. So whatever resonates with you, you'll find out the truth as you consume information. If it doesn't resonate with you, then that's not part of your journey.
Mm.
And you know, it's important to be able to do that, because there is so much disinformation right now. But that's how you'll find your authentic self, and that's where you'll be able to navigate this time period, because it does honestly take a lot of energy, to do this. And Dolores Cannon spoke about this. She said, like, the physical body will fail. Picture, like, you might be learning all this truth all these times, right? And now we're learning that physical and mental health are connected, right? The physical and the energetic body are connected. And if you watch mainstream media your whole life, you never watched a YouTube documentary, you never had any truth, and then all of a sudden all this truth comes out at once, it physically drains the body. I remember, like, every once in a while, like,
quite a serious wake-up call if you go from, having done none of this work, or, literally, like you said, plugged into mainstream media, and with everything that's happened in the last 4 months,
Yeah. So it's it is actually important work what we're doing, because common people, I mean, they have the right to know this. And even if I actually spoke about this actually in my episode today. You're constantly downloading in the subconscious mind. So even if you're putting stuff out there, and even if people, they don't understand it now, or if they kind of push it away, you've already planted the seed in the subconscious mind. So when it does come out, it won't be such a big blow to them, if that makes any sense.
I think, yeah, there's a couple of things I just want to recap, because you said some really good stuff there. So again, if you're listening, it can be a lonely place, because we wake up and our family isn't awake, and we might feel quite isolated. But actually, there's so many conscious communities out there now. You can go and connect. So the internet, and it enables us to connect. We can find our kind, so to speak. And then you were talking about the fact that we really need to tune in and listen to our own truth. And that is actually one of the prerequisites for living in 5D, is all about understanding and feeling, like Michael said. So it's not facts, it's not science, it's not things that can be manipulated. It's how we feel, and listening to our own authentic truth. And it's kind of like an initiation process as we come into the 5D energy. So is there anything else that you could share with us from the Hopi Prophecies, or anything really interesting that you have discovered on your research around this period of time on the planet?
DNA activation.
Ooh.
So this is another aspect of control by hiding truth from people. So we're always, like, programmed that DNA only gives us our traits, and the rest of DNA is junk. So you've heard of the term junk DNA, right?
Yep.
So actually, the junk DNA is not junk, and that's what they've been hiding from us. And that's how you download, because we're able to download, and we're able to awaken, whether it's abilities or past life experiences. And that's what that junk DNA is all about. So, like, you need to be out in the sun.
Right.
So light is information.
Oh, that
Your
explains
DNA.
the tan.
Yeah, I'm
I
always
was like, I don't want to be on the same screen as you, because you're so tan.
No. But light is information, and our DNA emits photons, and that's been shown scientifically. So again, when we take spirituality, so like DNA activation is kind of like a spiritual term. but scientifically they've shown that DNA emits photons. So we are light, and the DNA is able to receive that light. And a lot of times we also think of quote unquote light as the visible light, but it's all part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So then there's lights that we don't also see, but everything is affecting that. And there's also a term called epigenetics, and epigenetics dictates that you can rewrite or control your DNA. So there's ways like your physical DNA, where you could turn things on and off. Dr. Bruce Lipton speaks about this. But like it's the exterior things that might cause like maybe something to come out. So whether it's maybe not clean water, not clean food, spraying in the sky, you know, so on and so forth. There are exterior things that could affect it. And then naturally, if we're going on our journey, naturally we go around and we find maybe fruits and vegetables and we eat certain things, and actually helps us with our DNA activation. So the DNA is a lot more than we were led to believe. And then, you know, there's also other things like I talk about, like the power of I am. And a lot of people don't realize, but so magnetism, you bring things into your everyday life, and you should be focused on the things or the words that you speak into existence. So a lot of these things that might, you know, have the stigma of, oh, that's spiritual, that's not real. The mocking was done on purpose. The mocking was done because, again, because of subconscious programs. If they say, oh, that's only spiritual and that's not real, you will actually believe it's not real. But when you start to realize the truth, then you start to improve your life. And that's what the channel is about. It's about improving everyday life for all people, because these are the things that I do.
That's why they say spelling, isn't it? Because obviously it's literally a spell.
You're casting spells. Yeah. And that's why in Hollywood, they have a cast and they cast spells. And on the Tell Lies to Your Vision, they have programs, not shows, because they're programming your mind. And I've said this many times, and I see it on my journey, especially now. Go on the beach, go hiking, go out with people, and everyone's all love and everyone's hanging out. And I don't see one, because I rarely watch television. I tell them I kind of like pop in to check out what's going down in the third dimension, and I throw it on and then I get aggravated. There's other frequencies that are pumped through the television.
It hurts. I can't actually watch it, have it on, and I can't be in a room with it on because I feel it. It's painful almost.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful for YouTube, because it played such a role on my awakening journey, and that's why, like, you know, now I'm creating there, and it was an opportunity for people to share truth and have documentaries, like not just shoved down your throat. So like if something's not on TV, there's nothing to watch. So I'm not really one for the you know, lower vibration reality shows and all the nonsense that goes on. I haven't been watching television for many years, and ever since I was a kid, I was always drawn to whenever they did have like these shows on about like science or, you know, the future and prophecies and all that stuff. So now on YouTube, you just go on and you click and you start learning. And it's just in a person's innate that they want to learn. And you just have that drive, you know?
Yeah. So. And I think, you know, for people listening, you know, we talked about how your words create your reality. It's so, so true. And your words are so powerful. And we literally speak our realities into existence. So if you are somebody who's, you know, at a pivotal point in their journey, maybe you're changing direction because you're starting to listen to your inner voice, you know, get really clear on what it is you want, and, you know, go ahead and tell, you know, that's my journey, Michael. Like, I got clear on what I wanted and I told everybody I was going to do it and this is what was going to happen, and that's what happens. And once you get the hang of it, it's really addictive because it's like, wow, this shit works, excuse my French.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I mean, when you really start to see the change in your life, and it just keeps opening up to more and more and more. But you know, it's really important to have, I feel, for people that haven't awakened yet or are still plugged into the matrix, whatever you want to call it, to have tangible evidence. And another thing that I share on the channel is the Schumann resonance. So they measure the frequency of the planet, and they've been doing this for many years, and the frequency of the planet, it's shown that it's constantly rising. And when you have these bursts in the Schumann resonance, there's a correlation where you physically can have ascension symptoms. So like that's what a lot of people, they really like that. Like I'll talk about a Schumann resonance like burst or a blackout, and how I feel. And then when you see total strangers on different parts of the world reflecting that they're feeling the same thing, or seeing when the Schumann resonance spikes, it's also correlated with earthquakes and volcanism. So like when you actually see this correlation, then you start to open up to more.
What's
because
volcanism?
we are humans. I'm sorry?
What's volcanism? Oh,
volcanoes.
volcano.
Like volcanoes erupting. Yeah,
I had like vultures in my head.
yeah. But yeah, so you start to see this, and you know, it starts to build more confidence, and you keep expanding your mind to more possibilities. So that was another thing to help show people about this, show them that, you know, we as humans, we see invisible light. The visible light spectrum is only a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. And just because we can't see it, because we're living in this vessel, and that's the way our eyes work. And sometimes if we don't see it, it doesn't exist. But there are other things there that do exist, and they're part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and they are part of our world, and they're part of our everyday lives. So it's really, to go full circle, it's kind of connecting what Tesla said years ago and other people, and just putting it into common terms that a common person can do. Because, you know, that was, I tried to be a pioneer and do something a little different, because a lot of people have maybe spiritual channels and they reach a spiritual crowd. But I'm trying, because I know that there's going to be a mass, like, you know, it's waves of awakening. There's going to be a mass awakening. And I set it so that a common person that's just awakening can understand it with a little bit of science. So,
brilliant.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. And where can people connect with you? And you said obviously your YouTube channel is Our Everyday Lives.
Yes, it's Our Everyday Lives. And I went with that because it's for everyone, and for the common person. And, you know, I post videos on average about 5 to 6 days a week. And, you know, there's other links.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, like this right now, since I have you, you're helping it along. Like, you know, we're pinging it back and forth, you know, but, you know, to my videos, you know, they're about like 10, 12 minutes, you know, and I keep it, you know, to the point. You know, some people post a little bit longer. You know, I don't really have like hour-long videos, but again, I feel like for people right now, you know, a nice 10 under 20-minute video is efficient. And, you know, it's about like taking it in. And a lot of times too, if it just resonates with you, even if you don't really thoroughly understand it, because that was really me on my journey. And I even felt things years ago, like, oh, this music makes me like vibrate a certain way. Like I kind of, in my innate, I felt these things. So for a common person, if you're taking it in again with the subconscious mind, you might not thoroughly understand it right away, but very soon you'll understand it. And that's what I experienced on my journey as well.
Beautiful.
So
beautiful. Well, thank you so much. So yeah, if you're interested, obviously go and check out Michael's YouTube channel, Our Everyday Lives, and we'll have all the details in the show notes as well. But Michael, thank you so much for joining me on the Dharma Life.
Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. As you said, us warriors, us activators have to stick together.
Yes. Vibrational synchronization. So we feed off each other, and we're showing what the 5D Earth is all about. So, you know, you're helping me out, I'm helping you out, and it's just organic, and that's how it's going to work, you know. So I'm grateful that you had me on the show. This was a interesting experience. I didn't do too bad for my first
You
interview,
did
right?
brilliantly. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
If you're watching this,
first.
please leave a comment. Let him know how he did.
Thanks. And for the light warriors out there, I always practice what I preach. So, you got to do something new, and you never know what will come of it. So
Yeah.
thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
It's wonderful. And I think anybody listening as well, this is your call to action. Michael's just described his journey. He listened to his inner voice. He started his YouTube channel. That was only 2 years ago, and he's got nearly 20,000 subscribers. So, if there's something that you want to do to help the ascension journey, to help the collective, to help wake people up, go for it. Stretch your comfort zone and jump in. And we will see you next week with another incredible guest on the Dharma Life podcast. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Dharma Life podcast. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Please come over and say hello on my Instagram, our Facebook group, and also please let me know what you thought. So if you are listening, please take a screenshot of the podcast that you are listening to. Tag me on Instagram and I will reshare your post, and please let me know what it is that you got out of today's episode. Remember, when we do our Dharma, we are happier, healthier, we live longer, and we have a deep sense of unshakable inner peace.